You ever have one of those what was I thinking moments? Yeah, I had a whole business full of those. Act 1, the passionate beginning. Sorry, the garbage truck is taking garbage out. So I just give it a second. Okay, it's all good. It all started with a camera, a dream, and absolutely no clue about business. For my 17th birthday, my dad bought me a camera. Actually, the dad did not buy me a camera. He actually bought my sister a camera, and I borrowed it and I never returned it. Now that I think of it, it was a Sony Cybershot camera, and I used it to record wherever that I went. If we went on trips, I was just recording. Even if we were at home, I would just keep the camera in front of me and I would just stare at it. And when I started schooling, I actually got together with my friends and we used to create these really weird sketches, funny comedy sketches. At that time, YouTube was just starting and I used to just upload everything to YouTube. And funnily enough, they got caught on and people started watching these funny sketches and people really liked it. And I was thinking, oh shit, I actually might have a talent to make videos. And there started my passion and love for filmmaking. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start a business. So I named it Imagination Inc. Why? Because I don't know, it's a bit lame, but just stay with me, okay? It was a long time ago. And I started a business and I had no clue about how to run a business. The first thing that I did was create a video and then just post it on the internet. And there was a friend of mine who asked me whether I can do an after movie for a party. I said okay, and then I went and did that after movie. And I went to the party and I'd never seen beach parties, music, drugs, girls. This party was the first time that I got exposed to all of these things. And that party went from night until morning. So I recorded the entire party and I put together an after movie and I gave it to them. And they loved it. And they started booking me for after movies. And I went to so many parties and I started making these after movies for these parties. This is how I started my business, Imaginationing. And because I was going to parties, I actually slowly started getting into drugs. Because I had to stay from night until morning. It was a long shift. And the only way that I could stay up was to do drugs. I don't know. That's what I told myself at that time. And this was a montage of the good times. And I actually hired a co-worker just to roll my joints. It was just one of those things. Actually, I hired the co-worker to help me with the business, but he was really good at rolling joints. So I just asked him to, you have to give, if somebody's passionate about something, you have to let them do what they're passionate about, right? So I actually let him do it. Because I was doing all of these after movies, the people who organized these parties, they had several businesses. They had hotels, resorts, they had their clothing businesses. So they actually started hiring me to make videos for these other businesses. This was some time back and videography for businesses was not a big thing. People would just put an advertisement on newspapers or even just put an image on Facebook, and that was digital marketing back then. So videos weren't really prioritized at that time and people would pay really small amounts of money. In fact, I still remember the first paycheck that I got was 5,000 rupees. 5,000 rupees is like 24 Australian dollars, which is pretty shit. Anyway, and so I started getting $5,000, 15,000, 20,000, and I slowly started increasing my price. And I actually came up to like maybe 60,000, 75,000 per video mark, which was okay for me. I was pretty young back then and none of my friends had jobs. They were actually schooling at that time. And I was making 75,000, sometimes 100,000 rupees, and which was a big deal for me. It was a lot of money back then. Even somebody who was working at a bank would get that much money at that time. And I was pretty happy with it. Because I started making all of this money, I thought, okay, cool. Like I started getting really arrogant with it. I was like, oh yeah, I'm the coolest person on earth. I'm making all this money. So I started spending all this money, right? I started spending money on drugs. That was my favorite thing. I started spending money on girls, and I mean, not that I paid for prostitutes or anything. I actually I had the girlfriends at that time. I used to buy them really expensive shit, and I actually went on trips. I actually traveled, which I never regret actually. I never regret traveling. I actually really love that I did at that time when I could. Even now I could travel, but anyway. The point is, I did not save any money. I didn't understand the principle of saving. My dad always told me, okay, it's good that you're making all of this money, but you need to understand how to keep some money aside. And I didn't know about taxes. I didn't give a fuck about saving basically. Act 2, the highs, literally, and lows. So the parties, drugs, travel, all of these heightened at this time when I was making a lot of money. And I used to get high every day. That's how I actually started work. I actually collected some money with my dad's help. We made a small building right next to my actual house where I lived with my parents, and I made that my office, and I moved into it with my co-worker who rolled the joints. And we would actually wake up in the morning, we would roll a joint and smoke that joint, and that's how we actually started our day, right? So by the time 11:30, 12 o'clock, we were really tired because the high would just wear off. And I actually don't remember because I was high. I remember getting ghosted by clients because clients were not happy with my work. I mean, I worked really, really hard. I would just edit the whole day. I would just go for recording. I would just do things perfectly, but I think the clients actually got that I'm into drugs and I'm high all the time. I would actually forget things at times. So one client decided to just ghost me, and he did not pay me. And this was an eye-opening for me, literally, because I was high and my eyes were like this, and I got scared, and it opened my eyes because I did not get money from this client, and that was my paycheck for that month. And I actually went crying to my dad asking to help me with this client, and my dad called the client and asked him to pay me, but he never paid me. Act 3, misconceptions and reality checks. I was actually in belief that if I worked really, really hard, if I hustled really hard, my bank would just fill up with money, and that is business. That would be it. That's how I thought that things happen in business world. But boy, I was really, really wrong. I hated accounting. My accounting teacher in school threw my book out of the window because she thought that I'm really bad at it. I was really at it, keeping P&Ls and balancing, and I just did not understand anything about it. So therefore, I never kept accounts for my business. I never even thought about hiring an accountant to manage my financials. Act 4, from flop to a new start. I actually thought the problem was not my discipline with money or my discipline with life in general. I actually thought the problem was the market. Therefore, I thought, okay, I'm going to go to a new market and see if I can make more money. I moved to Australia, and I actually started doing a master's in media at RMIT University. I started working at RMIT, and this was my first real job in media. And I actually started understanding, okay, this is the kind of discipline that I need to have in order to make money with what I do, because it's a bit of a niche thing. Videography and creative business is a widespread, very popular business or a talent at this time, but back then it wasn't the case. Being a videographer was not considered a good job at that time, but now we are in high demand. So with all of this discipline I thought that I have now, I started another business, which was Dreambox Australia, which is a wedding videography and photography business. I actually started this with my friends that I met at RMIT University, fellow videographers and photographers. This was really fun. We actually made about $30,000 within 6 months of starting the business, which was a great achievement for us. But again, I was wrong. I did not understand how to reinvest the money and how to keep accounts and how to balance the talents within the group. That actually came crashing down as well because I did not know how to invest in marketing and get new clients and manage it that way. I actually had a problem of trying to do everything myself. I tried to keep accounts when I started Dreambooks Australia because I knew that was a problem that I had with my previous business. But it did not happen properly because I had this mentality, if I don't do it, nobody else will be able to do it right because it's my business. Nobody will care. I did not understand the principle of outsourcing and getting things done from other people. And therefore, I could not keep up with all the work that needed to be done with that business. That came crashing down as well. So during COVID, as I talked about in my previous video, I started my YouTube channel. I took a giant leap there and I started making videos for myself. And that went viral and I got hired by Davey Fogarty. This was my fresh start, my business school without tuition fees. Act 5, the lessons learned. If I had $1 for every mistake I made by not asking questions, I would have a lot of dollars right now. I wouldn't have to do a business. Through Davy's success, I actually started realizing the way that he was outsourcing tasks, the way that he was empowering other people to be the best of themselves, which was in return contributing to his business. I actually started realizing the importance of empowering other people to be the best versions of themselves. And I saw how that was contributing to the success of his business. This was one of the greatest lessons that I learned from him. And the next lesson was the flywheel effect. This is actually taken from a book called Lean Startup. If you haven't read that book, I highly recommend that you read that right now. The flywheel effect is simply breaking your business process into few simple steps. For example, let's take e-commerce, a clothing brand. What is the flywheel of a clothing brand? That would be create really great products, attract customers with digital marketing, provide a really great service, get customer feedback, and create really great products. This is the flywheel. If you are running an e-commerce clothing store and you focus on developing these 4 steps and you make the flywheel go as fast as possible, that's all you have to do. This is all about sticking to the plan and being disciplined with it. You have to empower people around you to be champions of each stage and they will just start turning the flywheel for you. This was one of the greatest lessons that I learned from him. Turns out being disciplined is even more important than having a co-worker who would roll your joints. And now I have 2 businesses that I'm running successfully and I'm pretty happy and content with myself. I'm not a wild success, maybe not yet, but I aspire to be and I know that I'm on the right path, which I think is pretty cool. But I wouldn't be here if I did not go through all of those things. All of those mistakes that I made in my past taught me so many lessons. And I did not take them as failures. I actually made them lessons in life, which I think is the most important thing. So, got a wild business story of your own? Drop it in the comments and we can have a chat. And hey, if you're looking to build your own personal brand, you can actually check out the link in my bio. I actually help people create their personal brands and be the best versions of themselves as well. Don't forget to subscribe for more tales of my questionable decisions. Peace!